You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
There was an idea. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people, see if they could become something more.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
This is the Marvel Tribe, brought to you by Walt's Apartment Podcast and the DisInsider.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Marvel Tribe. I am one of your hosts, Blerd Hulk, as well as we got our main man, Lou Knight here, a.k.a. Lewis, a.k.a. the man with 1,000 nicknames here. He's bringing some amazing dynamic perspectives to the Marvel Universe here. So we are missing one of our key hosts and stuff because it's the 4th, but you know what? We decided we got to carry on. So we gathered together and we formed our own mini Avengers team, and we're going to break down this episode just for you. So we're doing this on the special 4th of July episode of Secret Invasion number 2, just for you, all the fans, all the Marvel Tribe people out there. So without further ado, let's feel the pulse in your chest so you know you're alive. One love. Oh my God, I just butchered that. This is why they write down these scripts for the intro, and we're going to have a pre-recorded one. So I butchered that. But One Love, One Tribe is the one and only Marvel Tribe.
So Marvel Tribe, I'm ready.
Lou, happy 4th of July, man.
Same to you, man. Same to you.
So we're just going to kind of pick up and just kind of go. It's going to be kind of, in my opinion, going to be a bit of an unorthodox show. If you haven't seen episode 2 for Secret Invasion, this is a spoiler warning. So go watch that. This is a podcast, so you can stream this after. You can even stream it before if you don't really care about spoilers or any of that other stuff. But this is going to be our take on episode 2. We have some interesting things. So we're in the middle of talking about it a little bit, and I was like, oh, let's just get this all on recording so our fans can kind of listen to our back and forth on this episode. So before we got started, I stopped Lou. I'm going to recontinue, let Lou kind of give me some of his insight on Fury and everything else. And then we'll just kind of break into the different pieces of the show and wrap it up from there. So, all right, Lou.
So I'll recap a brief. I like War Machine, Don Cheadle, Rhodes. I like him in this episode. I hope this is a kind of a rebranding of Rhodes because, one, we have Secret Invasion, we have Secret Wars coming out, we have Armored Wars coming out. So there's so much where he's going to play a vital piece that I hope this aggressiveness, I hope they keep it. Because for me, Rhodes, whether you go Terrence Howard's Rhodes or Don Cheadle's in the early stages of Iron Man, was a cool character that you didn't see a lot, but then he became a key character where he was always there. And I was like, all right. But now it's like, okay, now he's always going to be here. And here's why. I love that. Nick Fury, there is something in this episode. There's something in the series so far. Nick Fury is different. I love the approach they're taking with him. That story, and it's going a little bit ahead, where he's sharing in the train with Talos about what his mother used to do, you know, how they used to ride the train. They used to bring fried chicken, pound cake, the boiled egg. I love that part. But that part for me, as much as I love it, feels like that's not our Nick Fury. Because Nick Fury was always never a personal storyteller. Unless it's something new, it was just always a team, a service, very a military mindset. But this series, we're getting a whole lot of, hey, where did we come from? How did we get here? You hear it in the conversation with him and War Machine when they start using the word brother and stuff like that. I'm like, that doesn't seem – now, if it's intentional to throw you off of Nick Fury, I think they are selling it well. But it's those conversations that make me believe Fury is not the Fury we know, because it's a new style of Fury talking that we haven't heard before. And so for me, I don't know if I like it or don't like it yet, but right now, to go back to another Samuel L. Jackson movie, I'm quoting Django. At first you have my curiosity, but now you got my attention. Like, I really like the way they're going with this Fury, and I'm trying to understand it.
So, all right. So since we talked about those two characters, Rhodey and Fury, let me give you my little take. And I'm not trying to change your mind, just what I've noticed. I'll start backwards. I'll start with Fury. So, over the years, since Fury's got introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we kind of developed and learned that Fury is he's the man on the wall. He's very clandestine, and his movements is very motivated. Everything he does has a motive, whether it's visible to us or revealed later, and it's kind of hidden and stuff, because it's a part of his chess strategy. You see a chess master kind of sitting in the park playing chess with somebody. They'll have a conversation with you. They're not really just interested in you. They're trying to figure out who you are and your strategy and the way you think, the way you tick. Nick has this. It doesn't turn off for him. So you're right. He is sharing a little bit more about his home life. And we'll talk about, because there's a train scene as well as the scene with Rhodey where he's kind of revealing about like how his mom, back in segregation times, they would, take the segregated train from Alabama and everything else. There was motives behind that and stuff, in my opinion, from what I saw. Same with the brother talking about how we have to be phenomenal in front of mediocre men and everything else to get where we are and all this, because they don't give it to us. There was some code motivating talk with him and Rhodey in that conversation, so we can dive into that because I have some notes on that. But Rhodey, I'm going to say this. I think Rhodey's a Skrull. Rhodey personality changes, and I know it's changed for the better for some. Like, people want to see more of a gruff kind of matter of fact, ballsy kind of versus he's kind of emerging into his own, where he's always been relegated to the sidekick. Rhodey's always been the not the comic relief, just the buddy. And there's the main star, and then there's your buddy. He's the buddy. That's not the case here. He's making moves. He's stepping into his own, and so that's not. You don't tend to rewrite that character for no reason. That's just not a character development and stuff that just naturally occurs. If you're the sidekick, you're typically relegated to that's your art. That's the box that you live in and stuff. So with that and just a little bit of other theories that I have, and actually I'll share with you guys this one. I've been noticing a lot of the Skrull-ish characters and stuff. They tend to drop subtle clues. I don't know if this is done purposely or I'm just going off on a wild goose chase here, but you see a lot of green and purple around them, or they're wearing green and purple. So when they had the meeting of the councils, a lot of those human forms were wearing green and purple, and then they shapeshift into Skrulls. There is a few situations where I'm looking at the Skrulls in their human forms, and they're wearing green and purple, and then boom, they're revealed as Skrulls. Not saying this is it's subtle enough to where it's not too noticeable, but we understand those are the color arts. And they show it in the lighting and everything else and stuff with Gia and the car and kind of the scenery and there's the tinges of tint. Well, Rhodey was rocking and this might be a far stretch here in that meeting with Fury, light green kind of military, kind of that pastel military shirt that you see the professionals wear, and he had some green little pennants on his tie. Purple pennants on his tie. So I'm like, okay, are they really being that obvious? At least for me, because I'm looking at the color piece that this dude is potentially a Skrull, or are they, or is just I'm just going off on a rabbit hole here. So yeah, so that's my thing on those two characters in this
so
show.
You mentioned something that I'm on the same page. I agree everything you said about Fury, and that's kind of where I'm at. And I hope that if it is strategy, I hope then this Fury we're seeing is the Fury we know and love, because then it just makes him a deeper of a threat, but a more badass than anybody else anticipates. If he's a Skrull, I feel like then that was a waste of character development that was really good for that character. But I think we have two Furies, and I think they are exactly the same dressed wise, because in that scene where War Machine on the phone and he's looking around, he doesn't see anything. And normally in the Marvel movies, they kind of like give you a sight to kind of see how they're watching them. Yeah. Showed it in that. So I'm curious if this Fury that met with War Machine was a duplicate, and the real Fury that we started the season with never showed up, because now we know, if you watch this episode, we know a few people that are big heads in this show are actually Skrulls. We found out in this episode. So I wonder, there was a Skrull we saw in that meeting with Rhodes. Like, why are you here? And he gave the best speech of all time. And then the phone rings and says, "That's a nice suit." Well, how did Fury see the suit? They didn't give us any acknowledgement on how Fury actually saw Rhodes' suit. But at the same time, not to jump ahead of the episode, but if you watch the ending of the episode, there's something that's kind of a cool little twist. So I'm curious if we have two Furies, both exactly the same, and we're going to get some crazy flashback in the last episode of when the real Fury was there and when the fake Fury was there.
Okay, all right. So I like the theory hole you're going down and stuff with this. So all right, so let's kind of get into it. So the title of episode 2 is called Promises, and it really kind of ties into the promise that Nick Fury and Talos made to the refugees of the Skrulls about and Captain Marvel about finding them a new place. So it kind of starts off with them back in 1997, where Talos introduces Fury to all these Skrulls refugees. No, a good handful of them, and Fury makes a promise to them, like, hey, if you help us here on Earth, I promise you I will help you. This could be a good alliance and stuff. And in that, we also get introduced to Gravik as a child, as well as Gia, who's a younger child than Gravik. So it kind of threw my theory off that Fury could be Gravik's dad. Now, don't get me wrong, he could be stepdad or mentor. Like, he looked up to something happened to where Gravik has Fury's number and stuff like that. Most people don't have a personal vendetta unless there's some personal shit going on and stuff. So while they're not blood related and stuff, which does show that Fury is married to a Skrull, but they're not. But the dad son thing could be more of a mentor mentee kind of situation and stuff with Gravik. But yeah, so they pledge to work with Fury and help him protect Earth and do all, kind of be like his shield agents or his team. And Fury, promised he would help find them a home. Well, kind of, we all know that he broke that promise, and that never really happened. And people can say, for a variety, I mean, we can always guesstimate and speculate why that promise didn't get fulfilled and stuff. I mean, the Kree, it controls a lot of the the galaxy and stuff as far as sympathizer and everything else. So maybe it's hard for them to find a home. You know, Captain Marvel's out there scouring the place. We know that since 95 to 97, they were out with Captain Marvel looking for a new place. So that's why they ended back on Earth, because they couldn't find a suitable home. You know, for whatever the reasons is, you know, we can speculate on that piece. So anyway, they're back home on Earth. And so they're working. This is part of the agreement with Fury and stuff. Now, fast forward, it goes back to the square where the bombing takes place, and Gravik shoots Maria Hill, and it kind of shows him just kind of saunters off like no big deal. I'm the new badass kid on the block and stuff. Fury gets tackled, and we find out it's by Talos, thrown in the back of the van and driven off and everything. This chaos ensued. The scroll that we saw, who got mind wiped, and who was he was an American who hates Russian. He was anti-Russian American force, and then when he got captured purposely by the Russian police, he kept saying, "I'm an American. I'm an American. He wanted to illustrate the point that this attack was done by Americans and stuff, which is what really kind of ginned up this big global kind of beef and stuff, which is what Gravik is trying to do. So any feedback on just that those parts of the opening scenes and stuff like that?
For me, I nothing on theory wise, but I did think that piece was, again, going to the 6th episode thing, they could have flushed it a little bit more smoother, but I think that scene really sets up that energy to say, oh snap, where are we going with this? So no, I think that was an opening. The Talos scene with Fury shows how dangerous the Skrulls can be, because you really don't know. And I think that was kind of foreshadowing what was to come.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it too, and I was trying to put it in perspective, like Skrulls, I mean, we in the comic books, they're just bad and stuff. But here they added a new dimension to them, and ever since Captain Marvel and stuff. Like when I first saw Captain Marvel, I'm like, oh, what, they're refugees, they need help, they're good. But as we're kind of their characters of their species being developed, they're similar to humans. Like there's some bad humans that don't represent all of us. And then there's some really good ones who are just trying to live a peaceable life. So they're just as complex and diverse as a species as we are and stuff. And so I really liked that the MCU brought that out versus just a race of bad warmongering species and stuff. So that was kind of cool.
And you see that in that like their governmental circle, that meeting they had with Gravik. You saw that where they were like against what he was doing. Yep. And he shared why he's doing it. He won the majority of the table over, but then at the same time, the one prime minister that he didn't win over shared. Are you guys forgetting that we are homeless because we were eager to go to war, not because we didn't want to go to war? And kind of shows like there is a battle within ourselves in doing this. But at the same time, I do think your theory that we shared before Secret Invasion started, I do think that the Super Skrull is in the works.
Yep.
And there is a scene with Gaia in a laboratory that looks very much like, I mean, you could take any tech, but that portal thing looks like tech that might have 4 reasons why it's being built. I'm just saying.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, I agree. So let's jump into fast forward to present day. After we get the town square scene and stuff. We see Gia with Gravik and stuff, and she's taking him to a secret meeting, and he's kind of suspicious of her. We find out, like, I mean, it's no secret that she's Talos' daughter. And there's no secret that Gravik despises Talos and stuff. He's just kind of keeping her at arm's length, like close, but not too close. Like he's not sharing secrets with her, but he keeps her close enough to keep an eye on her and stuff.
I think he keeps her close as a secret weapon to stop Talos if and when he needs it. Like I will break. You're not coming full force at me because you know I have her, and I'm not worried about you because I have her. So almost like a safety net for himself.
Yeah, body armor. Like she's my shield and stuff. So so whatever he feels about her, I honestly don't think he cares one way or the other about her and stuff. I think it really is about keeping Talos at bay and everything else. And so I think I said she was bad in the last episode, but based off of this new episode and stuff, she might be working in the angle. I'll just say that much and stuff. Her true motivations are yet to be determined as to what she's doing, but she's definitely working an angle. There's a part where it fast forwards us to the train scene where these Russian guards are on the hunt for Nick Fury. And then they they're going to cart. They go to this one cart, and this pretty blonde answers, and they hold up a picture of Nick Fury, and she jokes like, really, a black man on a Russian train, it'd be easier to find an alien and stuff like. And so they laugh and they snicker off, and then they walk away. And then, she closes the door, and then she transforms back into Talos. And then there's Nick Fury sitting there, and they have this kind of little, really real banter back and forth and stuff. And some things were revealed. I mean, so Nick was talking about how, him and his mom would travel on the segregated trains in Alabama, and they used to, to bide their time, play this game about tell me something true that you never told me before. And Nick talked about how, and this is where I think there's this setup, like, there's this emotional reveal about his past and a little bit of who he is, which, most spies don't tend to share. But I think there was a point of that and stuff. It was kind of a setup. So he was talking about the truth, his friend Sally Mae or whatever.
Susie.
Susie played. They play doctor and all the time, but he lied to his mom, but he's like, that lie told his mom everything she needed, and then he goes on to transition to, so tell me something that I don't know. Tell me what's going on. Tell me about what really happened on Skrullos, your planet, and stuff like that. And he's like, I told you everything, Nick, and everything. Anyway, Nick broke him down and got him to talk about how the fact that, they were in a war, with the Kree, and, they Kree destroyed the nation. They some of them escaped. Some went with, who, God, I forgot the guy's name, Emperor Droga. I guess Emperor Droga set off a colony, and he had loyalists and stuff there. What up?
Oh, Fury himself. Oh,
okay, all right. That's cool. We had a short interlude here with those who can't see what happened with Sean, who is our Nick Fury for the Walt's Apartment podcast here, but he stepped away. So I don't know if that was a mistake or if he's coming back. So anyway, he starts talking about Skrullos and everything, and it's like, yeah, tell me something I don't really know. And and this is the part where he reveals there's 1 million Skrulls on Earth right now, and Fury flips his shit.
He drops the best line ever.
Oh man!
He says, "Have you lost your reptilian? What is it? Reptilian damn mind?"
Yes, mind. Yeah, yes. And the truth is, so I see this from two. They both Talos and Fury really both make good points and stuff here. So Fury was snapped. So Talos didn't do this when Fury was here. He did this not knowing if Fury's ever going to come back. Half of the planet was gone, and he still had people to protect and to find homes for. And he's like, I sent out a signal. Half of Earth is gone, and 1 million Skrulls answered and came to the planet. Because, when you go from 8 billion people down to 4 billion, there's plenty of room and stuff, resources in there. So he thought he was doing a good thing. He's like, you weren't there. I had no idea if you're coming back or anything. And then Fury goes into the fact that, look, here's the deal. we can't even get along with our own selves, okay? We've been at war with each other since we were walking on two legs. We don't have the patience or the tolerance for another species. Or you've been here for the past 30 years. Did you not see that? And he's like, I had no choice. I had to find my people a home, period. So I see the points on both sides, and they're both, two things can be true. Like, hey, I don't know you're coming back, so it's up to me to find my people a home. Why not Earth?
But and you know what, he brings in a key piece though, because he says now, and he calls out Fury. He says, not only were I thought you were gone, not coming back. When you came back, you were only here for a very small moment before you were up in your spaceship. Which I don't think that's enough to really hammer out that story. But I felt like that was a big enough line to give us like, okay, that is a different story in itself. You've acknowledged it. You shared he was there. We're moving on with this story. And I thought I want to hear more. But at the same time, if I don't hear more, I'm okay with just that amount because it was delivered excellent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they ended up, he kicked him off the train. Like, hey, this is your stop. I can't believe you. And Nick felt so hurt and everything else and stuff. And I personally think it's an all in act. Nick does what he does to get the information he needs and stuff. This is also why I'm still sticking true to the fact that I think Marie Hill's death is just so she can go deep undercover. She can be a ghost. I mean, if the Skrull's not looking for her as an agent, and then we're not looking for, our government's not looking for her as an agent because we have sleeper cells and stuff. The best way Nick can infiltrate and navigate, he's too visible, right? And he may be a Skrull, or he has a Skrull doubling as him. So he probably is aware of that himself, that there's someone out impersonating myself. So he's on people's radar. A dead Maria Hill can give Nick all the leverage he really kind of needs and operates as a ghost. That's my opinion. I'm gonna stick to that. Which fast forwards us to the casket scene where she's getting a honorable death. You see the American flag draped over her casket. Elizabeth Hill, I believe, is Maurice Hill's mom, is there. And she confronts Fury, pissed off, saying, no one's telling me anything, what's going on. Tell me what happened. And he's like, she died on my watch and you were there and blah, blah. And so she was pissed. Like, you better make something of her death and stuff. So it really shows how deep undercover, at least in my opinion, it doesn't that this is going, that even the family, the mom is grieving for her daughter. She believes her daughter is, because who knows who's a Skrull? Who knows if mom doesn't grieve and that grief isn't real, someone will be like, oh, something's up, right? I'm thinking we are in the spy thriller mist of things and stuff like that. So mom can't know. The only two people on this planet that know Maria is alive should be Maria and Nick. So that's my take on that part.
And I like it. And I do like it, but I don't disagree with it. I am more so that Maria Hill is dead, but there is a gut feeling that she could bounce back. But if she is not dead, that leads me to believe that Rhodes is not a Skrull.
Okay.
Because I feel like they would have did their tests and all that to make sure this is Maria Hill. I mean, because obviously Rhodey knows a lot of the mindset and the chess way Avengers move, S.H.I.E.L.D. moves, all of that. He's triple checking if that's Maria Hill. And if not, if he is a Skrull, he's using his powers as Rhodes to triple check that that's Maria Hill. And right now, it looks like Fury doesn't have a whole lot of pawns left on his side of the chessboard, that everybody is kind of against him at this point. Now, if that's the actual people against him or Skrulls and variation of people that are against him. But then again, though, that's why it leads me to believe that Fury is a double agent in this. We have Fury, OG Fury, and we have Skrull Fury, because right now, for him being as wanted as he is, being right next to Elizabeth Hill, like, that's out there in the open. Like, why would you show yourself like that? Unless he's over there. Well, Scroll Fury is now, cat and mousing with Rhodes. Like, hey, I'm doing this to find out what you know. Mm-hmm. So, or then again, there is the third factor, and that could just be, hey, we only have 6 episodes, so we're trying to keep this ball
moving.
Yeah. So, but they're doing so far a pretty good job of pacing themselves. But I think Maria Hill is. I'm about 40, 60 saying she's not returning. But at the same time, it's really an eye opener to see how quick Fury's pawns are going against him. But at the same time, it's a very powerful thing saying, I'm not calling my queen to the chessboard, meaning the Avengers, because they shared, hey, what about, the event? Like, no, we're not bringing them into this.
Like, So let's talk about that. Let me set this up first, and then let's talk about that meeting with him and Rhodes. But let's talk about the High Council, the High Scroll Council meeting with Gravik. So Gravik is coming. He's being driven by Gia to the High Council meeting that previously Talos was a part of and got kicked out of. He comes in, kind of, Gravik comes in. He walks in with this bravado, I'm that guy. I'm that dude. And so he sits at the meeting and stuff, and he does something that reminds me of Ultron. So when he's talking about humans and dogs and stuff, like how, dogs don't lock each other up. They don't sell each other. They don't do all this other stuff. They don't destroy their environment. Like, this was almost likened to the Ultron's scene where Ultron came to the realization of what humans really were and stuff. So they came to the same conclusion, which Ultron was a fierce beast to be reckoned with. So having that thought process in your mind about this species, about human beings, means you really have no regard for humans at all. You see them as a certain thing. It's almost kind of like in the Matrix with Mr. Smith and how he views humans are a parasite. It makes it easier when you don't see the humanity in something to squash it, to destroy it, to take it over. So we know right there, Gravik revealed his motivations. Like, humans ain't nothing. There's, and then, they said, oh, that's a very simplistic view. That's the real view. That's the real view. He's like, that's the real view of human beings. I've been here long enough to know that. Then he formed the coup, and he's like, well, don't you have something to say? And he gets nominated as the High General of the council, which means he's in control of all of the Skrulls, who is really trying to kind of take things over and stuff. And we have the one council member who makes the plea about, how this is not, we shouldn't be trying to go to war and trying to take things over. We lost our planet because, like you said, Lou, we were too eager to go to war, and battle. It wasn't because we're trying to be a peaceful society and everything else and stuff. So he gets dubbed General of the Skrulls, and it's his show to run now.
And he mentioned the key line in there too when because they asked him too, like, well, what happens when the Avengers return? And he says, you don't think I thought of that? And I'm almost curious, what does that plan entail? Because it almost reminded me of the old Pokemon movie. When the final stadium and it's just like 2 Pikachus fighting each other. And all I pictured was like an Infinity War scene with like double caps fighting each other. But I hope, and I doubt we're going to get it, but I hope for that scene, we get a little bit more insight of what his plan is if the Avengers were to return during this. They're obviously not, but if some of the Avengers were to return, what does that plan look like? I want to see it, even though we probably won't ever.
So I think here's my thought process, because I think when we find out when Gia kind of follows from a short distance Gravik and his henchmen into kind of the secret area that she hasn't kind of gone to, and she sees there's this device that they're working on and everything else, and they're talking about the harvest, which is like, it's not really mentioned in the comics or anything, but there is a holy spiritual because they kind of mesh magic and spirituality and science all together. That's what the scrolls does. So there's this kind of a ritual that they do to kind of help them transform into these other beings and stuff. That's for the super scrolls and stuff. So that right there, I was like, oh, the harvest is probably that ceremony, that ritual and stuff. Now with that, when she's breaking into onto the computer, and we get a really nice Easter egg and we don't know if there's more that they've captured, but they've caught pieces of otherworld creatures or entities that are being experimented on. So we get Groot, we get Cole Obsidian, which is his hand gets chopped off. Groot been there several times and left pieces of him there. We get Extremis, which is from Iron Man 3. And then Shang-Chi, we see a version of the Extremis fighting inside of the fight cages and stuff like that. And we get the Frost Beast. So looking at just those four before she gets, before Gravik steps in and she tries to, there could have been more. There could have been pages of different, of DNA that they're playing with and trying to make this what we believe is Super Scroll. I mean, I think we're definitely going the Super Scroll route. I said that before the show even started. That's what I think that we're going to get is see Super Scroll. And it looks like that we're marching down that line of thought. Now, with that said, this is a theory. A lot of the ones we saw with the Groot, Cole, and all that is kind of reminding me of the Fantastic Four. And just hear me out on this. Couldn't possibly be or whatever. But if we look at so Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, he has stretch abilities. So does Groot, right? He can stretch. Cole Obsidian is a brute. He's one of Thanos' children's. Who else is the big brute? The Thing. We have Extremis, who has temperature and fire, flames, and he can shoot beams like we saw in Iron Man 3. And, he just, his whole body turns into this sweltering over burning heater and furnace and stuff. Like who? The Human Torch. And then the last one, which is the Frost Beast, which has nothing to do with Sue Storm, Invisible Girl. So I don't have, I don't know too much about the Frost Beast. Maybe Frost Beast can camouflage itself. So that could be the Invisible Girl power, or they could give us 3 and not the 4th to make it obvious. So
I see, and I'm on the upper end of that same page with you. I think they're dropping those characters we do know, knowing that, hey, they are testing and trialing this. And not that there's any similarities to the Fantastic Four, but I wouldn't, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if that portal thing, because it has a very Avengers, the first one, looking style where it's like, hey, this is a doorway to and from somewhere where they can use it, and the doorway brings somebody in from the Fantastic Four. Because all we need is one of them to really domino, that's how they got all their powers. We will see the Fantastic Four eventually. And also, it helps Marvel, if we're going really far out there, it helps Marvel not have to do another origin story. The Fantastic Four, we know they're coming anyway, but in the MCU, now you don't have to do an origin story. That the Fantastic Four have already went down the whatever aisleway they went to become the Fantastic Four. And I think if we are going to see somebody, I think we're going to see Reed Richards. Why? That is the first Fantastic Four that they haven't confirmed that it's casted, but he seems to be the one that's always casted right now. And I would not be surprised if we see not necessarily who's Mr. Reed Richards, but you walk in and say Reed Richards is knocked out but fully stretched out, and all you see is some type of version of their Fantastic Four logo, and then a cutscene. And so I think you might be honestly with the Super Scroll. It was a solid theory at the beginning before the show started, but after this episode, I think it's a higher chance. Not a guarantee, but it's definitely a higher chance now.
I agree. So, I find this also interesting too, and this is just kind of a side thought. Because as they mentioned the Avengers, because when we talk about the scene where we get the meeting with Rhodey and Fury and stuff, and they do mention the Avengers, and I was thinking about this. All the Avengers over the 20 plus 24 movies and stuff, they've all we've gotten backstories on almost everyone except for Rhodey. His backstory is really kind of, I mean, Fury was one, but now we're getting a little bit of Fury, and we got that in the Captain Marvel as well too. But Rhodey his backstory is kind of a mystery and stuff. We know he's a patriot. We know he's Cap's best friend. They went to MIT together. He chose the military life as an officer and everything else, and worked his way up to be a colonel and everything else. He's the liaison for superheroes with the president. So we know that, but that's all surface stuff. Those are rankings and titles and stuff. We don't know shit about Rhodey. And I thought I just realized that I was like, that's kind of odd because that's War Machine. We don't really get Rhodey's motivations and stuff, which is also why I also believe. Oh, my watch is talking to me. Says that's not nice. I don't care. But it's also why I believe that he is a Skrull, because there might be a backstory of who Rhodey actually is and how he became a Skrull. Or I don't know. I just noticed that it's such an odd thing that we don't have any back history on Mr. War Machine himself. So
with that, I have a question I'm going to throw out to you.
Okay.
Is there any characters that we know in the MCU that do you think will show up in this show or in future MCU projects that's as a Skrull, but we find out that they've been a Skrull the entire MCU theory? So, for instance, do you think there's a chance that everything we know and love about Rhodey it's still him, but it's him through the Skrull? So, therefore, do we like that Skrull? Because yes, he did help save a lot of people. He did go to bat for the Avengers and all that stuff, but he was a Skrull the entire time. Do you think there's any characters that they go that far back to say, hey, they were a Skrull this entire time?
So here's why I say no. We may not. Actually, here's why I say I don't know. I'm not going to say no, but I don't think Rhodey was an entire time, only because of Civil War. If Civil War didn't happen and Vision didn't laser beam his ass out of the sky and he fell and almost died, like he was messed up, paralyzed, blood coming out, and unconscious, he would have transformed back into his Skrull self. So that's the only thing that I'm holding on, is that scene. If it is true that he was a Skrull the whole time, then there's a hole. It's one of those kind of plot holes inside the MCU because of that scene. But there's that one. That's the only scene that is stopping me from saying, I don't think he or possibly someone. I mean, it could be someone else, another character, but definitely I don't think it was him. I think there's some point in between, and here's the thing, at the meeting when Nick Fury was talking about revealing, Nick Fury thought he was revealing that Skrulls was a thing, and he's like, no, I knew about them for 15 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, which took place during Iron Man 1. That's, about 2009-ish in the MCU timeline. So since the first Iron Man is when Rhodey was revealed about this secret, that revealed that Skrulls are a thing and stuff. Nick Fury apparently did not know that Rhodey knew, because he thought he was the one dropping the A-bomb and stuff on him. So I thought that was interesting. Here's that interaction, that back and forth. I get Nick Fury is trying to play up the whole hey, we're brothers, and we have to help each other out and stuff, because no one else is doing it. We had to scale to our positions in light of mediocre men and mediocre men just kind of in our way and doing everything, not giving us the opportunity. We had to take our stuff. So we both come from that similar cut cloth. Now, with that said, I know you're saying, like, you believe that he's being very emotional and very kind of personal about things. I think this is all, there's motivations behind these conversations. He's playing chess and he's kind of testing Rhodey out and stuff with these with that and stuff. And Rhodey, came back firing, not going falling for anything, and ended up ultimately firing Nick Fury. Like, I came personally to tell you you're fired. I signed up for this job to let you know that you're fired. But when he asked, so here's my thing: when Rhodey asked, why don't we call our friends to Nick turned that down immediately. Like, no, we don't want the Avengers involved with this. The next thing we know, the Skrulls will be pretending to be the Avengers and doing crimes and everything else and stuff. This is why I really strongly believe Rhodey is a Skrull, because he knows about that project, about creating a super Skrull. And what better way to get more DNA and to get more things is to capture some of the Avengers and stuff. So why not you, Nick? Call the Avengers, bring them out and stuff. So I think he's a Skrull. No one's going to convince me otherwise. Just the way that conversation. I was waiting for this part of the show, that scene, to talk about why I'm really truly convinced Rhodey is a Skrull. So.
And it's very ironic that that's what you think, because I'm smiling over here because that's the same exact reason why I think Nick Fury is a Skrull.
Okay.
Because I really feel like, granted, and I hope we get another chance to like revision Thor, because Love and Thunder Thor coming down, he probably wouldn't be able to spot it. But Thor Ragnarok, Thor Avengers, where he's able to like, this is something's off here. I feel like if you were to bring Thor down, like he'd be able to like, no, this isn't, something's not right, and spot that. Not only that, I feel like it's weird for Fury not to bring them into this when realistically, like, he hasn't seen them since Infinity War. And if this is bigger than Infinity War, you should be reaching out to them. Like, those are Earth's mightiest heroes. And now Earth is under attack, and you're not going to call your A-team to come in and again, this goes back to what I shared last episode. It feels kind of odd, and Rhodey even called him out. Are you taking on 1 million Skrulls? Like, how does that make sense? And that's kind of my argument last episode. Like, at this point, Hill's either dead or alive. Ross, the Ross that we saw was a Skrull. Coulson's been gone for a hot minute, and now you just lost Rhodes. Like, who else do you call upon? If Hill is not dead, cool, but she has to stay in the shadows for whatever you're doing to make sense. Unless, and I'm throwing this out here, and this is a long shot, unless the way Fury beats him is he becomes the Super Skrull, and now he's a good Super Skrull, which could play to the MCU where they like don't really make bad guys. They're just bad guys that, like the Wreck-It Ralph saying. And he becomes a Super Skrull and really embodying that. I don't see that happening, but I'm trying to see who else is in Fury's corner to really take on 1 million plus Skrulls now. Okay. He even kind of kicked Talos to the curb.
Yep. All right, so let me give you one more pitch. And I'm not trying to dissuade you, but let me give you one more pitch as to why I think it's Rhodey is a Skrull. So during that conversation they also had. So actually, let me give some context to this.
Okay.
So back in Captain Marvel the movie, Nick Fury and Carol Danvers is having a conversation, and Nick is talking about how everyone calls him Fury. Everyone, like my colleagues, my subordinates, his own. She's like, "Well, what does your mom call you? Fury." Well, what do you call your mom? Fury. Like it's like, no one calls me Nick. Everyone calls me Fury, right? So that's the context. Fast forward to the scene where they're meeting. He says, "What's up, Nick?" Rhodes calls Fury Nick throughout this conversation and stuff. So what sparks Fury's conversations about things? You know who else called him Nick that we've seen that really kind of stood up the hairs on Fury's neck? Was Fury's boss, the director. When the elevator scene, when he walks in and he's like, "Hey, what's going on, Nick?" Or what do you have? Whatever the thing is, he says Nick in the elevator scene, and then the elevator scene is closed. Boom, busts him as a Skrull. It was pivotal, like right there. He's like, "Okay, you played your hand." And at that time, there was a young Nick Fury, so he didn't. He wanted, he wanted to end the Skrull, so he went after his boss. Turned out to be it was a Skrull and everything else, because he called him Nick. Rhodey knows he's supposed to call Fury. Everyone does, from Tony Stark to Bruce Banner to Scarlet Witch. To Black Widow, to everybody. Fury is Fury. He's not Nick. So for that to happen, I don't think that's a MCU plot mistake. That was a very purposely done setup for that conversation that unfolds. So that's all I'm saying. There's a historical Easter egg with context about why I think Rhodey is a Skrull.
So with that, I will meet you in the middle, and I'm going to go Fury and Rhodes that we see so far
could be
are Skrulls. I given the way the conversation was having, that it was a very on our level conversation, and not only that, him kind of firing Fury, I feel like him calling him Nick is like a very, hey, I don't think I think of you as Fury no more. To me, you're just Nick. So for me, I'm a little reserved on it, but I do like that. So right now, Rhodes for me is like an 80-20, 80 more so that he's regular Rhodes, 20 that he's Skrull. But and the reason being is because right now it would throw the show off if you had two Skrulls bantering like they were real, and yet they can't identify. And we shared that they can't identify each other. But what is the context? If you're both Skrulls, why are you bantering about Earth stuff if you're trying to defeat each other? But we go to the end of that show, that episode, and you find out who Fury's wife is, or girlfriend, or significant other.
Yeah.
And I have some theories on that, but it's for that. The way that ended is why I feel Rhodes is not a Skrull.
Okay. So Fury's wife, in the end, is the same woman who introduced Fury to Gravik, the little boy. So when they did the greeting with the intimate greeting with the head and stuff like that. So that's who I believe is. It wasn't confirmed, but yeah, I'm pretty sure the same person, same look, same features, everything else and stuff. Even though one was a Skrull in the meeting with Nick, and the other was a Skrull chopping, cooking food, and then transformed into Nick Fury's wife. So Nick knows he's married. I believe wholeheartedly he knows he's married to a Skrull. She knows that Nick probably prefers that version of herself, so that's why she changed. Because even when Skrulls are deep cover, they stay deep cover. They stay in their human form, and no matter what. So I think that Nick knows that his wife is a Skrull, and is okay with that, because he knows that not all Skrulls are bad. Some are very good and righteous, and doing good things and stuff. So I don't think Nick thinks he's fighting a million Skrulls. I think he's fighting a faction inside of the Skrull colony here.
I don't think he knows his wife is a Skrull.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's why
she changed when he walks in.
Yep. I think she fell for him, he fell for her. And that's why her son is pissed, because his mom is staying in hiding to please Fury, and he's trying to destroy. And that's probably why he's pissed at Fury. Like, dude, you're
stepdaddy issues.
100%. Because the fact that, like, not only did you promise, but during this promise, you fell in love, almost like a ego Star-Lord and you killed my mother type of vibe. And Because if he does prefer that, but then again, that goes against kind of what the Skrulls are doing. And I don't think he does, because if he knew Skrulls were here by the millions, he would understand that when Talos told him that, because his wife's one. I don't think he knows that his wife is a
Skrull.
Yep. Or
damn, that'd be some deception right there.
So. Or we find out that, again, like I've been saying, we find out that Fury is a Skrull, and our Fury never came down to Earth when they called him. And Talos has been talking to a Skrull under this whole time. Because that would be a plot twist if all of a sudden Fury just gets to like, you've been here. What do you mean I've just been here? Because there's something about the beard. That beard is throwing me off too. There's something about that image that he has right now that does not seem like a Fury image.
Okay. All right. I hear what you're saying, where you're going with that. So there's a possibility he may not know. But I will say this, though, because no one really knew outside of there was a one-shot scene with him and Captain America having a conversation when he was inside that apartment saying, hey, my wife kicked me out. I need someplace, I need a place to stay. That was the only reference ever to him being married and stuff. No one on the Avengers knew. He never wore his wedding ring or anything, which is fine, because that'll make him a target. Oh, he's married, find his wife, find out who she. So I get that secrecy, but I also, for the longest time, thought that wedding, the conversation with him and Kat was coded. Like it was a short code for something, like my wife kicked me out, that's why I'm here, like a joke. But no, it's true. He was married. So he's been married since Captain America, at least. But this is where you and I just diverge. Like, I think he knows his wife is a Skrull. Like, he fell in love with her as a Skrull, and she changed for him, and they got married so they can get married and do all in secret or whatever and stuff. But I don't think he knows. It'd be a twist. If Fury,
that's going to be the deception. Like, Rhodes if Rhodes is a Skrull, Rhodes, like we talked about last episode, the president, my wife, like imagine the deception, and then it causes Fury to really not trust anybody.
That undermines Fury so much, though. Like he's not the master spy, espionage, super soldier. I mean, not super soldier, but the men on the wall that the government trusts. Because how do you trust somebody who doesn't know his own wife is a freaking Skrull? Like,
and I agree. It does degrade him a little bit, but at the same time, if we're going on the business aspect of Marvel,
okay,
Samuel L. Jackson has paid his dues for Marvel over and over. Okay. So they have to figure out some way to give him a harsh exit, like a very paying off one. For him to go up against this battle and find out everybody was against him, go out guns blazing hot, it gives him that righteous payoff. But also, too, for Marvel, on a business aspect, it gives us a chance to have villains that are so embedded in the system for marketing and stories to come. So when you go comics-wise, yes, it does degrade the spy of all spies. Mm-hmm. But when you're looking at it like, hey, Samuel Jackson's contract's coming to an end, if it's not already, we got to start blending on what we're doing for the future years. If we're looking on that aspect, I could see that deception being so hard that that's what puts Nick Fury out, because now he doesn't trust anybody.
Everybody is, and drives them insane.
Yeah. To the point where, like, he goes out, he doesn't go out like on a whimp, but he goes out like Yondu, like Tony Stark, like every other cool character has in a heat of battle, and he goes out. And it's a harsh reality for everybody, but now it gives the Avengers an initiative to reunite for those that are either still considered Avengers or the new Avengers to come through and, like, we have a deeper threat and it's time to go to work.
Yep. Okay. I hear what you're saying. So there is a part that we skipped. So it's the last part which was the meat market. So Sonya. So we all know that. So Sonya, I believe is her name. Fallsworth is the European version of Nick Fury. So she's the old lady that captured Nick earlier, and had her goons bring them in and try to get intel. And Nick put the little camera on her owl and stuff. Well, she goes to the meat market where they're torturing. The Russians are torturing the scroll, the American scroll for information. So she rolls in meat market, opens the door, and there's these guys that are torturing. It's like, all right, everyone out. And so the guy like tells all his henchmen to leave, go out front, and she's like, "Hey, where's the secret escape at?" Which I'm like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Oh, it's underneath him." So he's like, "All right, good to know. You out too. Get out too." So they leave her in the meat freezer, and so she's so happily and gleefully, like she reminds me of the lady from Harry Potter, that evil council lady and stuff. Like she's demented and stuff, and she's so she's pulling out her little torture bag and stuff. She locks the door and puts a obstruction device in front of it, and she starts asking him questions and stuff. And then she walks up to him and just cuts his finger off, holds it up like, "Oh, yep," turns back into the scroll like, "Oh, yep, kind of knew that," toss us aside, and she pulls out this serum stuff, injects it in him, and starts cooking his blood. Like he starts spilling everything, like the secret program, hideouts, all that stuff. And at that same time, the henchmen are out front, and then here comes Gravik and his crew, and Gravik's Mr. Badass 007. Like, sorry, this is why I think him and Fury had a really close relationship, because he was doing spy tack. Like he shoots the dude right before he chops the meat through the glass, walks in, holds the bell and stuff, goes in there and starts beating the crap out of people like he's Captain America himself. He like one hand picks up dude and hangs them on the meat hook and stuff, and just they're going ham on these guys, basically soloing everyone. Really showing how badass Gravik is and stuff. Eventually, she hears all the commotion. She escapes through the tunnel, and he goes in and then supposedly rescues the guy, right? So they drag him out and stuff, and they're taking him to the hideout. And then what we don't know is that that's when Gaia calls and speaks Russian to somebody. So we don't know if it's Gaia who sent the authorities to the hideout, or if if it was Sonya Farworth, as she was escaping, she sent her people to the hideout. But when they were driving to the hideout, it was compromised. That's when Gravik was like to the American dude, the scroll, like, yeah, let's go somewhere else. So they take him out to the forest. Walks, tells his other henchman who kind of vouch for the guy. They take him out. Gravik hands him the gun. Walks out there, shoots him. Gravik just has this non-cavalier look on his face, like a boss, like he's the head of a cartel and stuff like that. And it is what it is. Like, I think you betray me, you die. Period. End of story. Like, it was what. And the thing is, the guy who had to shoot him was emotional about it, because he's the guy that kind of helped him transform into that's his second hand in command. And so it really showed how what level of operation Gravik is on. Like, he is like the evil Nick Fury. Like, he is. I will go in and do the wet work myself. I will go in and bust guys in there. I'm not just a guy who's in command and sending my soldiers. I will get down and dirty and do my stuff. But when I tell you to do something, it gets done. So that was that whole scene. So I'll let you talk about it.
Oh, so okay. So the way you explained it gave me more appreciation for that scene, because the scene for me, it was gruesome, it was cool, but I was like, where did we go with this? Like, she got information, but you're getting information about stuff that's, I don't want to say, for as low man on the totem pole that guy was, if he had that much information, he wouldn't have been left behind when the explosion happened. So for me, I didn't buy into that character. And for him to know that much, I was like, really? That's all right. But the way you described that really sounds like, and I know Captain America Brave New World is the new title, but you can't forget that originally it was going to call a New World Order.
Yeah. Yep.
So for me, hearing that, hearing the levels of the circles of who the Skrulls are imitating, I'm starting to believe that this entire series is just a prelude to Captain America: Brave New World. And the reason because I don't think we're going to get an ending to this show. We're going to get an ending, obviously, but I don't think we're going to get an ending that ends this show. We're going to get something very much not same level, but same style.
That sets something up.
Yeah, Infinity War. When that snap happened and we're like, that's it? Because the way you described it, I did not interpret it as, hey, there's hiding spots, there's this. And Gravik is really like, hey, I'm not. And then he looks at Gaia when he does it. Like, he looks at her receiving the gun like, hey, you know what I'm capable of doing, and I don't care who gets in my way. And I think Nick Fury's pawn that he's going to pull at the end of the season, since like I've shared, he doesn't have a whole lot, is going to be the new Captain America. I think we're going to see Anthony Mackie season finale.
Okay. So here, and this is my last little theory here on the European version of Nick Fury, Sonya Falsworth. I think she's a Skrull, and it's only because of my color theory. She was literally wearing a green suit with a purple little cashmere thing, green and purple. So
she is a Skrull. Oh well, no,
they never showed she's a Skrull. Her. No, they never showed she's a Skrull. So.
But she was in the circle, right?
No, she wasn't. Nope, she was not in the circle. The one that tortured, she was part of the MI6 kind of spy people who captured Nick Fury, and Nick is like, no, I'll let you capture me. She was not a part of the Skrull Council meeting at all. So it was not revealed that she was a Skrull at all.
I thought she was the one. See, then I have to go back and rewatch it. I thought she was the same lady that was like, "Are you guys serious? This is how we ended in war." I thought that was her.
Nope.
Wow. I was watching that episode, so I wonder if she is a Skrull, or
I think she's a Skrull.
Well, I think she's a Skrull as well because she obviously knows a lot about him. Or this is our introduction to another Valentina collaboration, because which doesn't say she still can't be a Skrull, but I was watching that episode with the understanding that she was the same lady to find out more information about what Gravik's doing, because obviously she's against what he's doing.
Correct.
But I mean, her being a Skrull makes sense.
I think she's a Skrull that's against that faction of Skrulls. Like she's trying to, just like the human, just like Nick Fury, they're both trying to fight this faction that's rising up to take over the world and stuff.
I didn't think she was a different character, and I want to go back and rewatch it because I thought there's more I missed. But I was watching that scene as if she was a lady that did not transform to acknowledge Gravik as the Skrull general.
As a general, yeah.
So I thought she was the same lady. Because, I mean, I don't want to say they look extremely different, but they look more similar than different. So I watched that scene as if she was a step ahead of Gravik getting information. Yeah. Wow. Yep. Man. All right, that's that.
So, any final thoughts? You want to rate this episode?
For me, I'm going to go, let's see, I was 8.5, I think, last episode. This one, it's a 7.5 for me. And the reason being is because, yes, it was a great episode, but it was another episode laying down some tracks of where we're going, and we didn't get a whole lot of wow moments. I think the Easter eggs of, like, Groot and all that was cool, but it didn't, like, I wasn't Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV when I was watching that scene. I was like, okay. So for me, it's a 7.5, but no, I'm going to go 8 because of now realizing that was a separate character. I'm going to go 8 on this episode.
All right. So I said it was an 8 last episode. I'm going to stay at 8. I think it's just it's a solid 8. And I think episode 3, which plays midnight tonight, or, tomorrow, it's going to probably ratchet up. It's either going to hurt the ratings or raise them up. So I don't think episode 3 is going to stay the same. But this episode is an 8 for me. So
I have a question. Speaking of episode 3, what are some predictions going into episode 3 for you?
So here's my predictions. I think because this is the halfway point, it would be a lot better for scrolls to start revealing themselves. That start getting some of that, and we get more of what the Super Scroll program is. Whether it's Gravik just says, none of these guys are worthy to do this. I'm going to do it myself. Give me the power. And he experienced I think the Super Scroll program is going to be a main character in episode 3. And obviously we're going to get more of Nick Fury's wife and that relationship and that dynamic. So whatever that looks like and stuff, that's going to be revealing. And I think that may reveal some things about Nick Fury himself. So whether it's like puts more doubt and said, yeah, that dude's a Skrull, or there's another Skrull version of him, or it's like, I think that's going to be more revealing. So I see that happening. And I really do think we're going to get maybe a glimpse of, I'm hoping we get a glimpse that Marie Hill is operating as a ghost. Like she's off the grid, which is helping, that's the best player you can have on the checkerboard is someone who doesn't exist. So that's all I have. I don't know where they're going to go with this.
I agree with everything you said, and my hope and theory on this is the same thing you said, but turning the chessboard around, we start seeing who, on top of Maria Hill, but who does Nick Fury have in his corner? Because he's got to have something in his corner that he feels this confident going up against them. So for me, episode 3, I think you're going to start seeing one or the other. I don't think you're going to see both in the same episode. But I think you're going to either start seeing more of the Skrulls' intentions and them showing where they are and who they are imitating, or in this next episode, we're going to see what Fury's game plan is, because 4 and 5, I think, should be that episode of this climax. And episode 6 is going to kind of feather it off and where we're going from here. Yeah. So this episode, we're going to see one or the other. And then episode 4, I think we're going to see the opposite team start showing their tactics. Episode 5 be the big climactic. Episode 6 finishing that off with the twister. But so I'm on the same page as you. I think we're going to see someone's hands and what cards they're packing this next episode. Okay.
All right. So that was a review of episode 2 of Secret Invasion, the spy thriller that Marvel has released out on Disney Plus. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. I hope you checked it out because we talked about it and we spoiled a lot of stuff. But definitely, we definitely appreciate all of our Marvel Tribe fans. And if you want to see more of us, you check us out every Wednesday. We go live with the main core of the whole shebang, the Walt's Apartment Podcast. We're live on Facebook, so check us out on that. Lou, you want to tell people where they can find you if they want to know more about you and what you do?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sunken City Designs. You can find a bunch of my artwork, stuff like that. But also, too, you can find me here on Walt's Apartment. On Wednesdays Alive, you can find me with Extra Magic Hour. And then every other Monday, you can find me rambling on some BS about what I think I know on Undisputed.
Undisputed.
So, yeah, you guys find me there. Last night, I might have got canceled.
I gotta say this is one of our fastest growing entertaining shows and stuff. So it's really cool to kind of watch that show go from idea to realization, and it's really kind of picking up steam. So that show may be competing with Marvel Tribe here on building their fandom and audience. Marvel Tribe's still going to be the best, but Undisputed is coming. So
if I'm being honest, I like Undisputed being that like shadow child where it's like, dude, when you hear about it, but if not, what is coming? I mean, because
mainstream.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I Marvel Tribe has always been a fun one, and I'm excited for episode 3, man. I really am.
Same. I'll see you next week, brother. All right, for all you Marvel Tribe and Tribe, I was going to say Tribettes. You're all part of the tribe. So all you Marvel Tribe fans out there, we appreciate and love you. Happy 4th of July. Be safe out there so you can see the next 4th of July. And till we see you again, have a good one. Peace out.
See you guys.